2024, and the war on drugs continues.
I don't want this state to be reeking of marijuana.
Because we want to do all we can to ensure that we are going to limit the expansion of illegal drugs.
History was made today as President Trump signed the 2018 Farm Bill, making the production of hemp completely legal.
I think everybody's now figured it out. This is not the other plant.
The Senate legalized cannabis without knowing it.
I know that there's 10,000 licensed hemp companies in this state.
The hemp-derived cannabinoid industry was $28.4 billion. They're basically experimenting on people with these synthetics, right?
A little girl is recovering after her family says she got sick at school from eating what she thought was candy.
His entire body was shaking from head to toe.
Psychotic breaks are very common.
I've heard of people dying before.
A mother is behind bars after her 4-year-old overdosed on THC gummies.
Congress and these politicians have allowed this thing to become a monster.
It's America's dirty little secret. Pot is legal just about everywhere. So we went to a famous Florida retirement community to see if anybody actually knew about it.
There are 24 states that allow for adult use recreational marijuana.
Is recreational marijuana legal in Florida?
No. It's CBD, right?
Well, no, they mix it up and they turn it into Delta 8, which gets you high.
Oh, so it does have a little... Gotcha.
Oh, see, I
Did not know that.
The 2018 Farm Bill opened up the cannabis industry to all of the hemp producers. They got involved with the marijuana industry, making THC products from hemp that gets you just as high or stoned as regular cannabis.
I was not aware that THC came from the hemp plant. I thought they were separated.
Synthetics or man-made THC is considered separately from plant-derived THC. Now, to me, this is mind-boggling. They are the same darn thing. If it comes from hemp, if it comes from cannabis, if I make it in a reaction tube in the lab, it is the same thing. Why do we have different regulations for the very same product?
Just goes to prove how much confusion there is about the two different products.
The Farm Bill legalized hemp and said, there you go, without any kind of safeguards in place.
I was not aware. The loopholes.
So we live in a situation where the legislation is so irrational that to avoid that someone gets high, we are opening the door to the use of uncontrolled compounds, uncontrolled chemicals that could be really, really harmful.
That's surprising.
It is surprising, yeah.
Conservative estimate for 2022 is that the hemp-derived cannabinoid industry was $28.4 billion. And they said that is bigger than the state-regulated cannabis market combined. Weed is legal, as long as you call it hemp. If it's called hemp, it's legal.
I know personally that this is something that is not a secret in the youth corners of America.
If you have a child, even in these red states, these products are available at the high school. They're very inexpensive, and so whether you know it or not, these are already part of your life.
I'm 16, so I'm like being in high school. There's people that like in classes like leave to go to the bathroom just to like smoke in a stall, and then they come back like totally like slammed.
I would not feel comfortable with any of my friends or family or myself inhaling any of the products at these smoke shops, because not only are they unregulated, but even the ones that show regulations may not be up to date for what the product is they actually have on the shelves.
Didn't know that.
People ask, are these products unsafe? And the way I respond to that is there is a significant chance that these will not kill you, but it might.
Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
The American hysteria over marijuana really dates back to 1936 with a film of propaganda called Reefer Madness.
That movie, I think, affected most people in that generation who saw it and put the idea in their head that marijuana was bad.
In this film, you will see the ease with which this vicious plant can be grown in your neighbor's yard, rolled into harmless-looking cigarettes, hidden in an innocent shoe.
It was a tool used to set the whole country, on a path to be afraid of cannabis.
And there was a big push that marijuana would make you crazy and kill people. People were concerned about people, running off a cliff or hurting someone else.
Debauchery, violence, murder, suicide.
Dear God. What a film. I think as propaganda, it did a phenomenal job of scaring the voters out there to do what was ultimately done.
What's crazy about Reefer Madness is that this film led to the passage of the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act, which effectively made cannabis illegal. But in 1969, the Supreme Court struck down that law. But it was replaced in 1970 with the Controlled Substances Act.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse. In order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive.
Right now, marijuana is listed as a Schedule I drug, which is in the same category as heroin, LSD.
I think it's outrageous. It's crazy.
But in 2018, the Senate legalized cannabis without knowing it.
So today we're introducing the Hemp Farming Act of 2018. Our bill will finally legalize hemp and remove it from the list of controlled substances by recognizing the difference in statute between hemp and its illicit cousin.
The bill was signed by President Donald Trump at the time.
We're here to celebrate a really tremendous victory for the American farmer by the signing of the 2018 Farm Bill. And I thank Mitch and everybody for the job you've done. That was an incredible achievement.
The irony was not lost on anyone in this space that the person who legalized hemp and who has now ushered in this entire market and environment was Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who absolutely vociferously hates marijuana.
I think everybody's now figured it out. This is not the other plant.
Who has single-handedly blocked the most modest marijuana reform legislation from even reaching the floor. He is solely responsible for the federal legalization of hemp. When the Farm Bill passed in 2018, the hemp market exploded.
Kentucky's hemp industry could break the $100 million mark in sales this year.
This year alone, we'll have 1,000 farmers growing hemp in Kentucky's fields.
Within a very short period of time, there was an oversupply of CBD. When there's an oversupply, then the retail price plummets. And so in order to salvage their investment, researchers converted CBD into Delta-9 THC and Delta-8 THC, both of which are considered psychoactive and intoxicating.
Potheads are smart.
The vision was lotions, fiber, grain, seeds, put it in your granola bars, and maybe a little bit of non-intoxicating CBD oil. What he didn't plan for, and what I don't think most lawmakers who enacted this legislation planned for, was the intoxicating, synthesized cannabinoid products. And I would say that would easily make up at least 80% of the marketplace.
Cannabis and marijuana are from the same genus. So cannabis and the hemp plant are very, very similar.
The difference between hemp and cannabis, as far as the way that we're speaking about it, is completely a legal definition. It has nothing to do with science.
These are all marijuana sativa. These are all cannabis plants here. And if I had a table full of hemp plants, you would not be able to tell the difference.
Hemp is more typically CBD rich, where marijuana is more typically THC rich.
Hemp is defined by the federal government by its concentration of a chemical called Delta-9 THC, which is one of the more common cannabinoids in cannabis that is also intoxicating. And the federal government regulates it with a number of 0.3%. Any more than that in your plant, it's considered a marijuana plant. Any less than that, it's considered a hemp plant. The distinction now is completely arbitrary at 0.3%. Why not 0.5? Why not 2%? Why not 5%? We're making an arbitrary number up on a plant that is the exact same genetics. It's the same species.
A lot of what we refer to in the industry as chads, individuals that, again, have no background, no experience with cannabis plants, overheard that you could take CBD because they bought a ton of it because they thought they were coming in for the green rush, realized nobody's buying CBD. So they had to come up and become real creative, and they hired some chemists to go ahead and add an acid to that CBD chain in order to convert it into synthetic cannabinoids.
It's the Wild West. I mean, there's certainly not everyone's a bad player in the hemp industry. There's some companies that do things by the rules and they don't try to mess with synthetics, but that's, 1 out of 100 out there, right?
It's very similar to taking cold medicine and turning it into methamphetamine. Because the cold medicine is safe, it's been researched, it has a safety profile associated with it, it's manufactured under strict regulatory protocols. You can buy cold medicine and then convert it to methamphetamine, which can be very dangerous.
You start off with CBD, you run a reaction that is fairly simple in a pot. You just add a couple of things, the reagents used for the reaction, and the excipients, the solvents used for the actual preparation of the vape itself. Those are the risk, in my opinion.
And so what you end up with after reaction is a very complex soup of cannabinoid isomers or synthetic byproducts. We have tested thousands of these hemp derivative consumer products or hemp intermediates, and to date, 100% of them have contained synthetic byproducts or contaminants which do not exist in nature. And as such, we know nothing about their toxicity.
The products are not clean. They're basically experimenting on people with these synthetics, right?
I think that the sale of intoxicating products, Delta 8, for example, Delta 10, should have some level of control.
There are regulations here. Hemp is 21 and up in the state of Florida, but there are companies that have issues with that.
There is a risk also of having, kids, young people in particular, using THC in an uncontrolled way.
The hemp lobby says its intoxicating products are adults only, and that you have to be at least 21 to buy them.
My name's Gabby, and I'm 18 years old.
I'm Preston, I'm 19 years old.
But is that really true?
You're teenagers. Does anybody believe that these laws are being enforced?
No.
I don't. I feel like if I wanted one, it would be very easy for me to obtain.
Yeah, there's hot spots for middle school kids that can get their hands on any products. You can get your hands on anything basically and you don't have to be 21. And everybody knows about it, it's popular.
We sent these teenage volunteers to 3 random Florida smoke shops to find out if it's really that easy for minors to score pot.
How's it going? Can I get a Delta 8 pen and a pack of the gummies?
Single gummies, we got them in bags like these. These are really good. Do we have Delta 8 pens? So we have some on clearance that are just Delta 8, and then we have some over there as well.
I don't think that most residents understand that along with the CBD that's being offered at these marketplaces, that you could basically buy an equivalent of marijuana, THC grade marijuana that you could get in California.
Yeah, they asked if I wanted to try it to see if I liked it.
Do you want to try this one, or do you want to look at a different brand?
Yeah, that one will work.
Yeah, those are good.
So I think that it might not be common knowledge to mom and dad, but it's common knowledge to the kids who can go to these gas stations.
If you have any issues with the device, you just let me know. We'll give you another one. No problem.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
The first store we walked into, they didn't ID us. They kind of just helped us figure out what we wanted to buy. They didn't care how old we were at all. How's it going? I'm doing good, thank you.
Do y'all got a Delta 8 pen?
Straight Delta 8 will have the top shelves on that second row in the black and gold case.
Wedding cake. Let's do cookies. That's what I'm thinking.
Girl Scout cookies?
Yeah.
If you look at the legal cannabis industry, the ID checks and requirements are so stringent. They're one of the most compliant industries when it comes to checking your age.
No,
You
it's...
have a picture or anything?
No, I left it at home.
Next time, kind of just make sure you bring it with you.
But the hemp industry does not check your age. The hemp industry will gladly sell you cannabis and cannabis extract products and ship them to your mailbox.
Thank you. When we went to the second store and we said that we wanted to buy a Delta 8 and they asked us for our ID, either of us, and I just said I left it at home, that I didn't have ID on me, and they were like, okay, and they went through with the purchase anyway.
Do you guys have the Delta 8 gummies?
The ones here, they come in a pack of 2, either 150 milligrams or 500 milligrams.
We need to make sure that those individuals that are regulated are doing the right thing, which a number of them are, but the ones that aren't even licensed, which a majority of the time these smoke shops where you're getting this product, find their license. Guarantee you half of them don't even have it.
What flavor?
Poison apple, that one sounds all right. Okay.
You have your ID as well.
Oh, I don't have it on me.
Any ID picture, because I need like a form of ID.
I don't have it on me.
Sorry guys, I need a form of ID to sell anything in the store.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. You
Thank
too.
you.
I thought all 3 places were gonna sell to us.
Surprised that that they're like saying that they're strict about enforcing the age, because they're not.
Everybody knows it's easy to get their hands on those kind of products here.
Regardless of the state's individual policy on these, you can still buy them on the internet in all states. They're readily available with no age gating.
I'm Kunin, and I'm 6.
Can a 6-year-old really buy intoxicating hemp online? We put it to the test.
All right, here's my credit card.
For children, I highly believe that it needs to be child protective packaging. I believe 21 and up must be something that we must implement. And if you're ordering offline, ask for an ID, have the ID sent in. There's ways to protect these individuals and children from getting this.
Am I over 21? Sure.
So I don't think kids being able to get a hold of this stuff online is a huge deal. I think that's a problem for their parents. I don't think that whole industry should be shut down because parents have issues with their kids getting stuff online. It feels like we're being picked on.
I got it.
There are a lot of evil things that kids can do online, right? This is probably one of the best things that they could do if they ever do that. I guess I shouldn't say that.
Oh my God.
So one of the things working on this documentary that I would hear over and over again is hemp's not really intoxicating. Sure, it might help you sleep, it might help you with like muscle pains, but it's not gonna get you high. So we decided to put that to the test. We got 8 volunteers, all of them are casual cannabis users. So the first thing we did was establish a baseline for everyone. We tested their motor skills, we tested their reflexes.
Nice.
And we tested their memory.
Wasp, dog, cockroach, polar bear.
Very nice.
Deer, hippo, crocodile, meerkat.
4 for 4.
Zebra.
Mosquito.
Hedgehog.
Then we split the 8 up into 2 groups. One of them got hemp vapes, the other one got cannabis. The thing is, nobody knew what they were smoking.
Vape away.
Vape away.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.
Delicious.
Yeah.
I definitely feel something.
High on what, though? That's the question. High on what? High on what? I like it.
I think this is definitely cannabis.
I teach neuroscience, and the medical students, I have one class on cannabis, and some of these things would be fun for them to see. They would have learned a lot about what cannabis does and what doesn't do.
It's working.
Yeah, it's definitely working. I can feel my cheeks going higher.
We then ran the same tests all over again.
You're doing great.
I noticed that everyone was very focused on their physical activities, and they did very well, which also fits with what we know of the fact that cannabis actually does increase focus.
But when it came time to the memory, they were lost.
Armadillo, panda. Oh no. I don't remember.
Well, I had a little thing in my head that was going to help me remember it. I think I didn't remember because I was high.
Ladybug.
The card game, they were absolutely terrible. That is precisely what I expected because the working memory is messed up by cannabis big time, by THC big time.
The people who smoked hemp definitely seemed high, but they performed about the same on all the tests when we gave it to them a second time.
I think we're doing just as good as last time.
I think we're doing great, bro. I think we're doing better.
I think we're doing just the same, but having a little more fun.
Consistent. That's what I like in a team.
Yeah.
Wolf, rooster, orca, snake.
Buddha.
Walrus, walrus,
Turkey,
sparrow,
gorilla,
caterpillar,
narwhal,
goats.
Fly, seagull, beetle.
Goat, but we'll give you the 4.
I imagined a walrus eating a caterpillar and and because he ate the 2, he was the goat.
The big moment for me came when we sat down the group that smoked hemp and asked them, did they think they smoked cannabis or did they think that they were given hemp?
I think I smoked hemp.
To be honest, I'm not really sure what it was, but it got me high.
It was definitely a different high. It hit harder. It felt a little different, but I feel like it was weed. I feel like it was cannabis.
I think I smoked hemp.
This hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, wow, what a good time.
You guys smoked hemp.
Whoa, this is what it's like? Oh, man.
Well,
Interesting.
like I said, I certainly was high. No question about it.
So I think the conclusion of this study is pretty simple. Hemp can get people stoned.
If somebody who wanted to get high without an age restriction discovered this and then started talking about that on the internet, I think that could become a problem really quick.
And remember, this is something that we ordered online with a 6-year-old.
I got it.
Legal cannabis is tested and regulated. Hemp is not. The fact that they're not tested should make everybody concerned, especially the way that they're being produced. If people knew the chemicals and solvents and acids used to convert CBD into THC, I don't think anybody would use it.
I'm Travis Turner.
I'm Kelly Turner, and we're here to tell the story of our son who suffered a traumatic event from vaping a Delta 8.
Before smoking the Delta 8, my son was very shy, but as he started getting older, getting his driver's license and things, he started to kind of get out into the world a little bit, really was finding his place.
He was just a very grounded, family-oriented kid. Less than a month after he turned 18 years old, he went to a truck meet, and I had this gut feeling, like a mother's intuition, like what is wrong with him? As soon as I said that, his best friend was calling me. He said, your son is on the phone with the 911. He had to pull over, and I'm like, oh no, did y'all get in a wreck? He said, no, he doesn't feel right. And immediately, alarm bells were going off for me. We are very close friends with some law enforcement officers here, and one actually had gotten in touch with my husband and said he was on the way. It had been called in as a overdose.
When you hear overdose, something is terribly wrong.
We get to the scene, and it was pretty chaotic. Our son is screaming, crying, completely out of his mind. I'm screaming, what did he take? And then we were told that it was Delta 8. And the cops proceed to tell us, well, it's a synthetic form of marijuana that is legal if you're 21 or up. However, these kids are getting their hands on it. The paramedics come to us and said that he is in a life-threatening situation.
He was saying that his heart was beating out of his chest.
Yes, and they said, we've got to go. He could possibly be stroking, and he could possibly be trying to go into cardiac arrest. Walking into the hospital, I could hear him screaming. He wasn't making sense. He was shaking, his entire body was shaking from head to toe. And he was saying that everyone in the hospital looked like demons. That they were making were demon laughs.
Oftentimes the children that are having access to these vape pens, they stop breathing. These things have very unpredictable consequences. Psychotic breaks are very common.
They basically just said, well, you know, we've gotten him stabilized. He's got to get this out of his system. He's got to go home and sleep it off.
We don't understand what's happening. We don't realize that it has done something to him mentally.
So we brought him home and we put him in our bed in our room so that we could watch him. And he slept for about 48 hours. So he woke up and he didn't want to eat. He didn't want to talk about anything. He was still crying on and off. He was terrified of everything. He was afraid he was still going to die.
As a dad, that was my first thought was, he's going to sleep it off, we're going to get up tomorrow, and we're going to be fine. And that's turned into 3 years.
As far as the diagnosis, he has severe agoraphobia, severe PTSD, severe panic anxiety disorder, possibly depression disorder. He is under intensive therapy for this, and severe agoraphobia is where he cannot leave the house. Since the night that this happened, we have not, to this day, gotten the child that we had before back. And it has been 3 years.
I spoke with one gentleman who was using Delta 8 gummies, and he basically sort of passed out. And when he woke up, he believed that he had murdered his 2 children who were sleeping upstairs. That's a pretty serious psychotic break.
I wish that hemp was tested the same way. Then we know that it's clean. So quality, purity standards, they go out the window. And when that happens, then people get sick. I mean, I've heard of people dying before from THC Delta 8.
But first, that breaking news. A mother is behind bars right now, charged with the murder of her 4-year-old son, who died after eating gummies containing Delta 8 THC. A police affidavit says the 4-year-old showed a THC blood level that was extremely high.
So the CDC and the FDA keep a database of serious adverse events. You can track adverse events from any kind of consumer product. When I went into that database and I filtered the data and only pulled records that were specific to synthetic cannabinoid, the FDA's database indicates that there is at least 150 fatalities that are associated directly with these hemp-derived synthetic compounds. We also know through the conversations we have with parents and law enforcement that the majority of the events do not get reported to these databases. So it's severely underestimating the adverse events associated with these products.
So hard to wrap my mind around the thought that he smoked a vape and this is what it did. It just became the worst nightmare that, you know, any parent can imagine.
Let's go back to Conan's hemp vape pen one more time.
Am I over 21? Sure.
The one a 6.5-year-old bought with no safeguards at all. How dangerous was it? We sent the pen over to Pro Verde Labs in Massachusetts for analysis.
We took off the tip to get access to the oil that's inside, and we take a small sample of that oil and we diluted it with organic solvents so that we could introduce it into our HPLC and gas chromatography instrumentation.
And what was Dr. Hidala's findings?
So this is a pretty standard run-of-the-mill vape that we see. The bulk of the material that was in this vape cartridge was CBD from hemp that was converted into Delta 8, but then that was further augmented with additional purely synthetic, way more intoxicating cannabinoids. That represents significant danger to any adult, much less a child, because we don't know what the other contaminants are. We don't know if there's residual reagents. We see a lot of chemical signals which are not from natural compounds, for which we don't know the toxicity of. This product would therefore not be recommended for human consumption.
So the synthetic cannabinoids, it's really just, think about it as designer drugs in cannabinoid form that are synthesized from CBD, and that industry is constantly chasing the next one that will get people high so they can put it in a vape until it gets banned.
Even if you can make the argument that the Delta 8 in that pen is a hemp derivative, the other components in there are clearly not derived from hemp and would constitute Schedule I drug, which is prohibited. And so I would say not only should that be illegal, I would say that it is illegal, and it's only through unenforcement or ignorance from law enforcement that these are allowed to persist.
Because they're running on borrowed time and they want to make as much money as they can, because once the DEA says, yes, this is going to be a regulated scheduled product, they're not going to let the hemp industry just sell weed. So they're getting it while the getting's good.
The money is definitely a bigger priority than people's lives, because again, they don't have to come and deal with this every day. They just get to pocket the money, and it is what it is. I mean, it's sad that it is like that, but I truly believe that that's what it is.
I think that there's an implicit unfairness in the marijuana industry. We have one product that is highly regulated, highly taxed at the state level, and then you have a federally legal substance that is entirely unregulated, that the FDA won't touch.
There we go. Total is 3330. Do I think that it's fair that my product's federally legal and their product is not federally legal? I don't think it's fair. I think their product should be federally legal.
Right now, we're ostracized through the federal government's eyes. And we are obligated to operate under a tax code called 280E, which means basically that we don't get to deduct cost of goods sold as a business like every other business does.
I think it's foolish. I think when you don't allow for deductions or taxes to be made on cannabis, where is all that money then? Sitting cash, escrow somewhere, doing no good to anybody. When we could be using this on our roads, on our education system, and I mean really using it, not just like what we hear.
So a cannabis company, you can't get a loan. A traditional loan from a bank is not going to happen. But with a hemp company, it's all day. I mean, that's very, very normal.
Their employees also are in a very bad spot, because an employee in the cannabis industry, their income is not even recognized as valid income to get a mortgage or a car loan.
Everything we grow here has to stay within the state lines. Hemp can go to any state in the country.
There is nothing that would stop a hemp company from taking an order from outside the state and shipping it across state lines.
I mean, it's a disaster. It's just a spaghetti concoction of state rules that are not consistent, and then the federal government just refuses to address the issues.
In Florida, DeSantis doesn't want to have legal marijuana, and so he wants support and help in fighting the legalization of marijuana, and he got that support by vetoing the prohibition of these hemp synthetics.
Now, I'm not somebody that thinks having recreational marijuana available for young people is something that's good. I think that will make it more difficult for people to succeed.
How can you be against regulated, tested, safe cannabis, but at the same time support the hemp industry, which is pushing out unregulated marijuana products?
Here in Florida, I know that there's 10,000 licensed hemp companies in this state.
Someone walking by an elementary school, just sitting there token up, like that's somehow okay? How is that good for the state of Florida?
Ron DeSantis does not think cannabis should be legalized because of its putrid odor.
I don't want this state to be reeking of marijuana.
It's a tough one to swallow, right? Because Ron DeSantis come out and said, I don't like the smell of marijuana. You know, we don't need this stuff in my state. But at the same time, he's vetoed a bill that would ban the hemp industry from selling unregulated marijuana and marijuana products. So it's like he's talking out of the both sides of his mouth.
He sees the hemp industry as a potential ally in his crusade against marijuana legalization. He views it as the lesser of the two evils.
Congress and these politicians have allowed this thing to become a monster.
Maybe he thinks that these hemp synthetics are safer, but it couldn't be further from the truth.
Any politician who states they're going to vote against recreational marijuana in the interest of public safety, yet drives by several liquor shops on the way home in their district, is being a hypocrite.
Marijuana does still have that little bit of taboo behind it, and I think it's an education thing. I think some reefer madness has still bled over. I think there's still a negative connotation behind it where it's looked at as a drug that will cause problems rather than something that can help you.
I think people just don't understand it. People are afraid of it. There's been so much yellow journalism about the negative effects of cannabis when nobody's ever gotten hurt off of it, anything like that.
Marijuana has a lot of beneficial effects and qualities for human beings. It can really help with sleep. It can help with appetite. It can help with mood, anxiety. It's got a bunch of different uses, but they're all effective and they work, which is why this plant is so popular.
THC is what is associated with the psychoactive component of marijuana. Like alcohol, it should be regulated and requires some level of analytical testing to ensure consumer safety.
I'm 100% positive that all of our products are completely safe and clean, and not just because I say it is, but because we have third-party labs that already went through their regulatory process to get licensed, and they have tested all of our products to make sure that they're clean. And that takes time, and it takes money, which these other producers do THC from hemp don't have to go through. Our first step to growing commercial cannabis is performing tissue culture. And tissue culture is a very important piece to the steps because it allows the cannabis genetics to stay original and keeps them clean and intact. Step 2, we grow mother plants and then we cut clones from these plants. And these clones then go into rooting. After about 10 days, we transplant those into a larger grow medium, which we do our hydroponic feeding in. The vegetative room, the lights are on for 18 hours, off for 6, and it's humid and hot. So it's basically mimicking springtime. Once we transfer those plants into the flowering rooms, the photo period changes to 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and that's what triggers the plant to start producing its buds, which is where the THC is. The next step is harvest. And then we take that plant, the entire plant, and whole plant, hang dry it upside down, just like you would dry and cure tobacco. And then ready to be packaged once it passes all the tests. If they found a hair, they would fail the entire batch. So it's critically important on the biosecurity side for a facility to be set up correctly. And a lot of that happens in the infrastructure. Yes, we need to have scrubs and Tyvek suits for guests. Everyone scrubs in like they're scrubbing into surgery. When they come in, every time they go through an air shower, scrub in. And that is all around protecting the living plants in here. Loom employs over 1,000 people. We grew well over 100,000 pounds last year.
So sometimes you can push up the bottom just a tad, you know. Take it to the bottom. There's no pinholes, no rips, no tears.
We are the largest producer in the state, and we have 3 production facilities. One big outdoor farm, it's 120 acres of canopy, all automated planting, harvesting, drying, trimming, and then we have 2 state-of-the-art indoor facilities. Knowing that the products we put out are clean and are correct dosage, they are what we say they are, and they passed all the chemical screening, and there's no fungicides or herbicides or pesticides, mold, bacteria. That's why we have testing, so people don't get sick. And that's one of the most important things. Knowledge is everything.
You seem to like your job.
I do. It's hard not to.
I would say anything that's synthetic or chemically made in a lab should be banned.
The reason why it's a problem is because without regulatory oversight, we don't know if that product is safe or not. We don't know how clean it is or not. So I would like to see that loophole in the Farm Bill solved.
So one of the ways forward, which I hope comes to fruition, is that marijuana, cannabis, hemp is all descheduled. Not rescheduled, just descheduled.
I would fix the situation with hemp and marijuana in this country by legalizing cannabis to the full extent of the law, completely deschedule it, make it so that people can grow cannabis at home, sell cannabis in stores, and people can safely purchase this product.
To be a Schedule I narcotic, you're supposed to have a high risk of addiction and no medical benefit. We have plenty of studies showing that cannabis has medical benefit. The AMA has even come out in approval of it for using for chronic neuropathic pain. So just by definition, cannabis should no longer be listed as a Schedule I narcotic, no matter what concentration of THC is in it.
I mean, this is the million-dollar question, right? I mean, you've got public polling showing sizable bipartisan majority support for legalization, for ending prohibition. So why hasn't Congress met the moment? I think that the easy answer, and the one that maybe comes easiest to mind, is, hey, they're old. They grew up in the era of reefer madness. They still have these beliefs.
I would challenge anybody that looks at cannabis as if it's a demonized product in any form. I'd challenge them to go to a cancer patient, someone that's not looking to get high, someone that's looking for relief, someone that's looking for help. I challenge them to go talk to them face to face, have the set that you have on that keyboard and see how they feel about it, how they feel about you calling that product anything other than relief.
Because in the ER, I see a lot of patients who are suffering, who are not getting the care they need from Western medicine and from Western medications. Cannabis is the right medicine for the right people, and it should be available.
Ah, man. My mother passed away at Christmas. I got to hold her hand and watch her take her last few breaths. She's been battling stage 4 cancer for almost 5 or 6 years. She didn't use it to get high. She found it good for sleep, for anxiety.
This plant saves people.
There can't be a prohibition of cannabis forever. It's already, the train has left the station. It's something I think now you can't really stop. It's just a matter of time.
Click on the story, read the story, do a deep dive. Follow the money.
I got it.
Man, take a minute and do some research. Knowledge is power.